allowed to freely come out because that's good. It gets the prices down. That's good for our country.
The map of global power is shifting again. We are watching an escalating crisis between the United States and Venezuela that could reshape the entire global energy market. We are seeing a dangerous buildup of rhetoric, sanctions, and counter-sanctions impacting global oil prices, trade routes, and regional stability. Venezuela sits on the largest proven oil reserves in the world, approximately 300 billion barrels of crude oil, more than Saudi Arabia, Canada, or Russia. Venezuela has enough oil to power the global economy for decades. That's why this conflict matters. For most of the 20th century, Venezuela was one of Latin America's wealthiest countries. Oil money built cities, funded education, and created a thriving middle class. But over the past 2 decades, political instability, economic mismanagement, and international sanctions have turned Venezuela from a regional powerhouse into a country struggling with hyperinflation, poverty, and mass immigration. The current conflict intensified around 2015. First came sanctions targeting government officials, then broader sanctions on the oil industry, then recognition of opposition leaders as the legitimate government. Now in 2026, we're seeing what could be the most dangerous phase yet. The rhetoric has reached unprecedented levels. Washington talks about protecting democracy and human rights. Caracas talks about American imperialism and sovereignty. Both sides are drawing red lines, making threats, and neither seems willing to back down. Here's why this matters economically. Venezuela's oil is heavy crude, requiring special refining processes. The US used to be Venezuela's biggest customer, buying hundreds of thousands of barrels daily. American refineries along the Gulf Coast were specifically designed to process Venezuelan heavy crude, but sanctions changed everything. When the US banned Venezuelan oil imports, it created massive disruption. Venezuelan production collapsed. American refineries had to find alternative sources at higher prices. Global oil markets had to adjust suddenly. Venezuela found new customers. China became a major buyer. India increased purchases. Oil started flowing through intermediaries that masked its origin. This created the shadow oil market. Venezuela's official production numbers say one thing, but reality is more complex. Oil is being produced and sold outside traditional tracking systems. Now in 2026, the situation is evolving. There are rumors of negotiation, talks about easing sanctions, suggestions that the US might bring Venezuelan oil back into legitimate markets. But there are counter-pressures. Political groups in Washington oppose any deal. Venezuelan leaders are wary of American promises. Other oil-producing countries are watching nervously. Global oil markets are interconnected. When supply from one major producer becomes uncertain, prices everywhere react. Shipping companies pass fuel surcharges to customers. Delivery services raise prices. Manufacturing companies face higher input costs. Plastic packaging costs increase. Online shipping prices rise. It all connects back to global oil prices. If conflict escalates, if there are naval blockades or increased military presence, shipping companies might reroute. Longer routes mean higher costs and longer delivery times. Venezuela has become a testing ground for influence between the United States and other global powers, particularly China and Russia. This is happening when global energy markets are already unstable. Venezuela could be a stabilizing force if it could produce at full capacity, but political conflict prevents that. Production declined from over 3 million barrels per day in the 1990s to less than 1 million today. Bringing it back online would take years and billions in investment. For businesses and entrepreneurs, think about energy costs. If you rely on shipping or transportation, you need backup plans for oil price volatility. Crisis creates disruption, but disruption creates opportunities. For tech companies, Venezuela reminds us that physical geography still matters in a digital age. Data centers need power. When energy prices spike, cloud computing costs increase. Even digital services have physical dependencies. The US-Venezuela conflict shows how geopolitics affects economics, which affects daily life. We live in an interconnected world where decisions made in government offices ripple through to your gas station, grocery store, and business expenses. The mistake people make is thinking international conflicts are someone else's problem. They're not. When major powers clash over resources and influence, everyone feels the effects. The question isn't whether you'll be impacted, but whether you'll see it coming and prepare accordingly. The relationship between the United States and Venezuela has been complicated for over a century, shaped by oil, ideology, economics, and power politics. What happens next depends on decisions made by leaders in both countries, but also by other global powers and energy market realities. This isn't about who is right or wrong. It's about how the world prepares for the outcome. It's about understanding understanding that economics and politics are inseparable. It's about recognizing that your business, your costs, and your opportunities are connected to events thousands of miles away. The map of global power is shifting. Energy markets are in transition. All of us are participants in this transformation. The question is whether we'll be passive observers or informed actors who understand what's happening and why it matters. Thanks for watching.